Hi, I'm Chad.
And I'm Kelly.
And this is Success with Chad and Kelly.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are diving deep into a book that I'm sure many of you have heard of, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Oh, yeah, classic.
It's practically a cultural phenomenon at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's a roadmap to personal freedom, or at least that's what they say.
It's true. This book really seemed to connect with a lot of people. And for good reason, I think.
What is it about this book that you think makes it stand out?
Well, I think Ruiz's core premise is incredibly powerful, So much of what we experience on a day-to-day basis, the anxiety, self-doubt, frustration, it all comes from within.
So it's not some external force that is holding us back.
That's right. All of that stuff, it comes from agreements we've made with ourselves, often unconsciously, and that is where the real suffering begins. Okay, I'm already intrigued because, how do we not know we are making these agreements? It's like we're running on some outdated software, totally unaware of the glitches.
Yes, exactly.
So where do we even begin to unravel this?
Well, Ruiz introduces this really fascinating concept from Toltec wisdom. It's called the dream of the planet.
Okay, and what is that?
So just imagine billions of people, right? Each with their own dreams, fears, expectations, all swirling together, feeding into this massive collective dream.
Wow, that's a lot.
It really is. And it's also this invisible force that shapes pretty much everything we do. Our beliefs about, well, everything. Cultural norms, what we consider success. It's all a part of this dream.
So we are all born into this pre-existing movie, and we just accept our assigned roles without question.
Exactly. We rarely, if ever, stop to think if those early messages we received about who we are, what's possible, even what it means to be good or bad, we never question if those messages are even true or if they're just someone else's ideas.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I can see how it would be incredibly freeing to sort of rewrite those scripts, to start again with a clean slate.
It's totally possible. But the first step is understanding how deeply ingrained those messages are.
So how do we do that?
Well, this is where it gets a little out there, but Ruiz uses the analogy of domestication to explain this. He compares it to how we train animals.
Okay, now you've got to unpack this domestication thing because I have to admit it's a new one for me in this context.
Of course. So think about it like this. When we are children, we're rewarded for certain behaviors.
Right.
And then we are punished for others.
Right, that's how we learn.
Exactly. So we learn what to say, how to act, even what to feel in order to gain approval from our parents, friends, teachers, bosses, you name it.
And over time, those external rules, they become the rules we judge ourselves by.
You got it. We internalize those rules, and that creates our own inner critic, the judge. And that judge, let me tell you, it's constantly evaluating us, often finding us lacking.
It's like those critical voices from childhood. They never really leave, do they? They just become our own internal monologue.
Yes. And what happens when we inevitably fall short of those impossible standards?
We get down on ourselves.
Exactly. The victim emerges, carrying the burden of guilt and shame. And Ruiz argues that this cycle of judgment and self-criticism is at the root of so much of our suffering.
It's like a vicious cycle, feeding itself. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So how do we break free from that? I need to know.
Well, that's where the four agreements come in. Ruiz presents them as a way to dismantle those old limiting beliefs and step into a more empowered way of being. He saw them as an antidote to this whole domestication process.
A way to rewrite our internal programming.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's dive into the first agreement. What is it?
He starts with a powerful one. Be impeccable with your word.
Okay, that sounds simple enough, right? Just tell the truth.
Well, it is and it isn't. Ruiz takes it way beyond just telling the truth.
What does he mean then?
It's about understanding the sheer power our words carry, the impact they have on ourselves and those around us.
He even goes so far as to call words magic, if I remember correctly, right?
He does. And when you really think about it, it's true. Words have this incredible ability to create and to destroy.
I mean, think about a time when someone gave you a genuine compliment, how good that made you feel.
It can totally make your day.
And then on the flip side, think about a time when someone's harsh criticism really stuck with you.
Ooh, yeah. We've all been there, right? It
Yeah.
can really stick with you, eat away at your confidence.
Ugh, tell me about it. Ever say something you wish you could take back?
All the time.
It's like those words have a life of their own,
Totally. And you know what Ruiz calls gossip?
Wow.
He calls it black magic.
Whoa, strong words.
It's being serious.
Yeah.
Because it really is like a virus, spreading negativity and causing real damage.
I've never thought about it like that before, but it makes sense.
For sure. And he illustrates this point in the book's introduction.
What does he say?
Okay, so picture this. This guy, right? He's sleeping, but in his dream, he sees himself sleeping, like he's outside of his body.
Okay, that's trippy.
Right. So when he wakes up, he's bathed in the moonlight, surrounded by millions of stars, and in that moment, he realizes he too is made of light. The world becomes a mirror, reflecting this light back at him.
Wow, what a powerful image of our potential.
It really is. But then he introduces this term, the mitote.
The what-to?
The mitote. It's a Toltec term that describes the smoke that clouds our perception, the internal chatter of doubts, judgments, and fears. It's that constant noise that prevents us from seeing ourselves and the world clearly.
So like when you feel like your mind is a battlefield of thoughts.
That's your mitote. It's exhausting just to think about.
So how does this all tie back to gossip being black magic?
Because gossip is like we are adding fuel to the fire of the mitote, both our own and everyone else's. Instead of reflecting light, we're adding to the smoke, making it harder to see clearly. Think about a time you heard a rumor about someone, and it totally changed your view of them, even if it wasn't true.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, that's the kind of black magic Ruiz is talking about.
Our words have the power to completely reshape someone's reality.
Yes, and not always for the better. That's why impeccability is so important. It's about being intentional with our words, asking ourselves, is this true? Is this kind? Is this necessary? If not, maybe those words are better left unspoken.
Okay, that's some seriously good advice. I like that. So we've covered the power of our words and the importance of being impeccable. What's next? What's the second agreement?
All right, so the second agreement is don't take anything personally.
Oh, man, this one is huge E and hard.
It's definitely a tough one to master.
How many times have you let someone else's bad mood, like a snide remark or even just a look, totally ruin your day?
Oh, all the time. It's so easy to get caught up in that.
And it's like, come on, why am I letting this get into my skin? You know?
Well, because as humans, our default setting is usually it's about me. Our egos are experts at making everything personal.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But Ruiz, he throws us a lifeline with this agreement.
Oh, so?
He reminds us that 99% of the time, what others say or do has absolutely nothing to do with us. It's their own issues, their own baggage.
So someone's having a bad day, and I just happen to be in the firing line.
That's often the case, yeah.
Not exactly comforting, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about condoning bad behavior. It's about understanding that everyone is starring in their own movie, shaped by their own unique experiences and beliefs.
So that person who just cut me off in traffic, they're probably just late, stressed out, having a bad day.
Maybe they just found out some bad news, who knows?
It's not a personal attack on my driving skills, even if it feels like it is.
Right.
Okay, that makes me feel a little less road ragey already, I have to say. But it's still hard. Like, how do we actually stop taking things personally, especially when it feels so, well, personal?
It's definitely a practice. It's not like you can just flip a switch and stop caring what people think. But it starts with noticing your reactions.
Like, what do you mean?
Okay, so say someone criticizes you. What's your first reaction? Do you get defensive? Does your stomach clench?
Oh, yeah, all of the above.
Right, so that's the ego wanting to protect itself, to battle it out. But instead of immediately reacting, try pausing, take a breath. Remember, their words are likely more about them than you.
It's about not letting those outside comments dictate how we feel about ourselves, right? Building up that emotional resilience.
Now you're getting it.
This one's going to take some practice, I can tell. Okay, so what's next? Give me number 3.
So the third agreement is don't make assumptions.
Oh, man, this is a tough one. Our brains are like assumption machines, always trying to fill in the blanks.
Oh, for sure. And we usually go with the worst case scenario, right?
Every single time.
It's totally normal. We crave certainty. So we make assumptions to try to feel safe and in control. The problem is those assumptions are often based on, well, nothing.
Yeah, like incomplete information at best, usually our own made-up stories in our heads.
Exactly. Or, even worse, our own insecurities and fears.
Oh, tell me about it. How many times have I misinterpreted a text message or the tone of someone's voice and immediately thought the worst?
Happens all the time.
It's exhausting.
And usually totally inaccurate. Like Ruiz uses this great example in the book.
I love his examples. What is it?
Okay, so picture this. This guy sees a woman smiling at him from across the mall, right? And immediately, he creates this whole story in his head. She's checking him out. She likes him. They're going to fall in love. all from one smile.
See, I knew it. We do this all the time. It's like
Yeah.
our imaginations go into overdrive, creating all this unnecessary drama.
Exactly.
So how do we stop assuming the worst?
It all starts with questioning those assumptions. Instead of jumping to conclusions, pause and ask yourself, what evidence do I have to support this thought?
Right, like, is this real or just my insecurity talking?
Exactly. Like, is there another way to interpret this situation? Could there be a totally reasonable explanation I'm not seeing?
So it's about being curious, asking questions, and seeking clarity instead of letting those assumptions run wild and ruin our day. Easier said than done, but definitely worth it.
I agree.
All right, so what's the final agreement? Number 4.
This one is considered by many to be the most important. It's the foundation for all the others.
Okay, lay it on me. What is it?
Always do your best.
Okay, I love the idea of striving for our best, but doesn't that sound a little, well, exhausting? Like, what if my best on a Tuesday afternoon after a long day is just ordering takeout and binge watching my favorite show?
And that's totally okay. That's actually the beauty of this agreement. Your best is not going to be the same every single day.
Oh, tell me more about that.
It's going to fluctuate depending on your energy levels, what's going on in your life, how much sleep you got, even the day of the week. It's not about pushing yourself to the brink of burnout every single day.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
It's about accepting where you are at and doing what you can.
So it's more about showing up fully in each moment, whatever that looks like for us that day.
Yes, exactly.
I like that a lot. This reminds me of that story Ruiz tells
Which one?
about the man asking the Buddhist master how long it will take to become enlightened.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
The man asks the master how long it will take if he meditates 4 hours a day, and the master says perhaps 10 years.
Right. And then what happens?
The man, thinking he's found a shortcut, then asks, what if I meditate 8 hours a day? Thinking that will cut the time in half, of course.
8 hours of meditation. That's a lot.
I know, right? But what did the master say?
What was it?
Perhaps 20 years?
Oh, wow.
Can you believe it?
That's a good one.
So the man is super confused, understandably, but the master explains that enlightenment, like anything worthwhile, is not about pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion. It's about balance, being present, enjoying the journey.
So it's not about the destination, it's about how you get there.
It's about the journey, not the destination. Exactly. I love that.
Me too. It's so true.
So always do your best doesn't mean striving for some impossible standard of perfection every single day. It's about just showing up authentically with effort and intention in every moment, whatever that looks like for us.
Yes, I love that. That's a great way to put it.
This has been really helpful. What else can you tell us about these 4 agreements? How do they all fit together?
Yeah, it's really all about the journey, about enjoying the process.
Yeah, and not beating ourselves up when we are not perfect.
Exactly. Like when we consistently do our best, we build this sense of self-respect.
That's a good point. I've never thought about it like that.
It's not about needing someone else to validate us anymore, It's about knowing that we did what we could.
We showed up.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So where do you think this journey leads? If we are following these agreements, living by these principles, what's at the end of the road? What do you think?
Well, Ruiz calls it heaven on earth, right?
He does. It's a good one.
But I always thought that sounded a little, well, I don't know.
A little out there.
Yeah, like harps and clouds,
Yeah. No, he's not talking about harps and clouds and angels. It's not about that. He's describing a way of being in the world, free from suffering.
Okay, so less about pearly gates, more about inner peace.
Exactly. Like imagine a life where you can express yourself without the fear of judgment.
Oh, wow, that would be amazing.
Right. Or being able to love deeply without holding back, where arguments and conflict just don't have the same power over you because you're no longer taking things personally.
That sounds amazing.
That's heaven on earth. It's about finding that peace within yourself.
So how do we do that? How do we cultivate that inner peace?
Well, it starts with awareness,
Yeah.
like just noticing those moments when you're falling back into old patterns, the negative thought patterns.
So, like, when you are about to gossip about someone, or you feel yourself getting angry at something someone said,
Exactly. That's your cue to hit the pause button.
take a breath.
Yes. Take a breath and choose a different response, a more helpful response.
So every time we catch ourselves, it's like a mini victory.
I love that, yes. It's a process. It's not about being perfect,
It's about progress, not perfection. Right. Like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And some days you are going to totally crush it, like you are going to feel like a new person. And other days you're best is just going to be noticing those negative thought patterns. That's it. But that's okay.
We all have those days, right? It's about giving ourselves a break.
Yes, exactly.
This has been so insightful. Thank you so much for breaking all of that down. I feel like I learned a lot.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love talking about this stuff.
So for our listeners at home, what would you say is the key takeaway from the 4 agreements? What's the one thing you want them to remember?
That's a good question. I think it's this. Happiness is a choice.
Oh, I like that.
It's not something we have to chase after.
We have the power to create our own happiness.
Yes. By living in alignment with these agreements, we can find that inner peace, that heaven on earth that Ruiz talks about.
It's about taking ownership of our experience, right? We have so much more power than we realize to change our lives, starting with our thoughts.
That's beautifully said. I love that.
Oh, thanks.
So to everyone listening, I want you to ask yourself, what agreements are you holding on to that are no longer serving you? Which of these 4 agreements really speaks to you, speaks to where you are at in your life right now? And then, take it one step at a time.
One day at a time even, right?
Exactly.
This has been an incredible conversation about the 4 agreements. Thank you again for joining us and sharing your wisdom. And to everyone at home, remember, personal transformation is a journey, not a destination. So be kind to yourselves along the way. Join us next time for another deep dive into personal growth and spirituality, and be sure to check out our online community to keep the conversation going. Until next time.